Okay, I'm homework. I'd like to get closer to people. Okay. In our reading of Luke today, the things that came out to me, I know, I just want to get closer.
I know, but you're not in the camera. I move the camera over there, so people can see you.
Thank you.
That's it. Our reading today of Luke. Two words come out at me: greed and priorities. Greed, I looked it up in the dictionary. I always look up one word just in case I want to get it right. Intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. And in my little Good News Bible, let me read this little, what we just read in Luke. The parable of the rich fool. A man in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide with me the property our father left us." Jesus answered, "Man, who gave me the right to judge or to divide the property between you two?" And he went on to say to them all, "Watch out and guard yourselves from every kind of greed, because a person's true life is not made up of the things he owns, no matter how rich he may be." Then Jesus told them this parable. There was once a rich man who had land which bore good crops. He began to think to himself, "I don't have a place to keep all my crops. What can I do? This is what I will do," he told himself. "I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones where I will store my grain and all my other goods. Then I will say to myself, 'Lucky man, you have it all good things you need for many years to come. Take life easy, eat, drink, and enjoy yourself.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night you will have to give up your life. Then who will get all these things you have kept for yourself?' And Jesus concluded, this is how it is with those who pile up riches for themselves, but are not rich in God's sight." Greed and priorities. It was not uncommon for people in Palestine to take their unsettled disputes to respected rabbis. The rabbis had a legal and binding affairs of legally and binding to tell you who gets this money and who gets that. I think there was over 600 rules that the rabbis had to remember. But Jesus refused to be mixed up in anyone's disputes about money. Jesus quickly reminded him that he had not come into this world to handle money problems, but involved in the salvation of sinful men and women. He had a spiritual work to do. To those who had an abundant supply of possessions, Jesus spoke this parable to the rich fool. There are two things that stand out about this man. I think one you might know already. He never saw beyond himself. The parable is full of words: I, me, my, and mine. His whole attitude was the very reverse of Christianity. Instead of finding happiness in giving, he kept everything for himself. He never saw beyond this world, and all his plans were for this life. Those who never remember that there is another world out there is in for quite a shock. The Romans had a proverb which said, money was like seawater, the ocean seawater. The more you drank, the thirstier you became. We could easily argue that the rich man is a wise and responsible person. He had a thriving farming business. His land produced so much that he does not have enough storage space in his barns. So he plans to pull down his barns and build bigger ones. Then he would have ample savings set aside for the future and will be all set to enjoy his golden years. Isn't that what we are encouraged to strive for? Isn't it wise and responsible to save for the future? The rich farmer would probably be a good financial advisor for us. He has all things figured out. He has worked hard, we do, and saved wisely. Now he can sit back, relax, enjoy all the fruits of his labor. Right? Not exactly. There's one very important thing he has not planned for, his relationship with God. The rich farmer was not a fool because he is wealthy or because he saved for the future, but because he lives only for himself. And he believes he can secure his life with his abundant possessions. After all, wealth can buy anything. The rich man's land had produced abundantly, yet he expresses no sense of gratitude to God or the workers who have helped him plant and harvest this bumper crop. He had more grain and goods in storage than he could ever use, yet seems to have no thought of sharing it. He is blind to the fact that his life is not his own to secure, that his life belongs to God and that God can demand it back at any time. An old saying my mom and dad used to say, you can't take it with you. I never knew what that meant when I was little. Sooner or later, we learn no amount of wealth or property can secure our lives. No amount of wealth can protect us from disease, tragic accidents, relationships gone sour, or our families from falling apart. Most importantly, no amount of wealth can secure our lives with God. It is not that God doesn't want us to save for retirement or future needs. It is all about that word, priorities. It is about who truly God is in our lives. It is about how we invest our lives and the gifts God has given us, and how we treat our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones, and our strangers we meet. Why are you saving money? Are you saving for retirement? To buy more expensive vacations or bigger cars? To be happy and carefree? Jesus challenges us to think beyond our earthbound goals and to use what we have been given for his kingdom. Faith, service, obedience are the ways to grow rich according to God's kingdom values. The rich man died before he could enjoy what was stored in his big barns. Planning for retirement, preparing for life before death is wise, but neglecting life after death is disastrous. After all, you can't take it with you. I get this, I don't know, every couple of weeks, you probably get it, Clarkston News. Well, this last week, Wednesday, I couldn't believe, it's not that I just opened it up for the obituaries, but there were 3 pages of obituary, full pages. Let's see, I can paper clip them all. I want to show you. I'm not lying. One whole one. They're saying, what is she trying to get? There's another one. You know, when you get older, you start reading them. I don't know. And then there's the third one. Okay. And maybe some of you read this obituary that was in. Mr. Richman of Palestine, age unknown. Mr. Richman died last night of unspecified causes, known as very fortunate by some of his neighbors, even called him blessed because his land produced abundantly. Mr. Richman made plans to build bigger storage facilities for all his extra wealth produced by his land. But he died before his buildings were completed. He is survived by no one. Perhaps that is why he was sometimes observed talking to himself. No spokesperson could be reached for comment. But God, in a written statement, called him a fool. Arrangements are pending. Amen.